There's no doubt that right now that the Gulf Wars collectively have killed half as many troops as were killed in Vietnam. I mean, we have right now on the doorsteps of the VA people begging to get in, begging for help, being turned away, suffering, and then committing suicide. We're seeing illnesses much faster at a much greater rate. Since we know that we've probably deployed 1.3 million troops already to Iraq, we're going to have a figure that is so high, so off the charts, nobody's going to believe how many will be returning ill and how sick they will be from Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom.
There's been bills introduced lately in the last session of Congress and this session, setting up the same path, a registry of veterans, a registry to document who served where and when they enter the medical system. They're starting on that path one that we took 16 years ago, and we still haven't gotten the right diagnosis and treatment.
We know very well that all of our soldiers, Marines, Air Force men, Navy people go there to expose their life to the risk of actual battles, to the risk of being killed by the bullets and the roadside bombs. In addition to it, we are dealing with invisible enemy, which is suspended radiation in the air, which really our soldiers do not deserve to be additionally exposed to, and much less than the soldiers, civilians and children have even less culpability because they really don't know what they are dealing with.
You train an individual to go into service, how to fire a rifle, how to do his job, but you don't spend 5 minutes deprogramming when he comes out when he has problems. How do you expect to get an all-volunteer army if you don't take care of the veterans that are coming out?
I think a lot of veterans are angry because when you join the military, all of us have different reasons why we did it. But I think for most people, there's a covenant, there's a belief that you're doing something noble. And you're making a sacrifice not only for your country, but for your family, and you're willing to risk life and limb. And when you make that bond, when you raise your right hand and you swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, you make a bond with your government that you're willing to risk your limbs and your brain and your well-being to go sacrifice. And the unspoken commitment that every soldier believes, and I know I believed it, and I know every other soldier believed it, is that if you are injured, whether it be from a bullet, a bomb, a chemical warfare agent, a biological weapons release, a psychological injury, that your government will take care of you when you come home. And they will give you everything that they can to bring you back to that place that you were before you went to war and sustained that injury. But what you find out is your war's over. The next war's begun. We have to talk about the new veterans.
When the Washington Post reported a front-page story about the neglect and abuse of soldiers returning injured at Walter Reed Army Hospital, that was a tragedy. What about the 400,000 soldiers who are not being treated at Walter Reed, who are being neglected because no one is acknowledging that their illnesses are real? Instead, they're calling it post-traumatic stress disorder. It is my hope that the editors of the Washington Post will spend the same amount of time and diligence investigating the claims of 400,000 very sick Gulf War veterans that did not make it into Walter Reed Army Hospital. And yet, they are being neglected, and they are suffering, and they are dying at very high numbers. It seems that no one has paid attention to their plight yet. When virtually all members of Congress say, yes, we support our soldiers, even if they may not support this war, many people I've interviewed say, not true. We went over, we fought, we did the best we could, and now we're sick, we're in pain, we have real illnesses. Where are these same legislators? Where are these presidential candidates? They're not there protecting us. They're not passing laws that will help us in our plight. They talk, but they don't act. From multiple sclerosis to chronic fatigue syndrome, from fibromyalgia to gastrointestinal disturbances, these soldiers are toxic, and yet no one is helping them. Why doesn't the Washington Post interview them? Why aren't they on front page stories? If a couple of thousand soldiers returning through Walter Reed are abused, what about the hundreds of thousands, they say, who have been given no attention whatsoever, no support from anyone? Their stories deserve attention also.
The ideal situation is that there's international agreement to outlaw the use of uranium weapons. Not depleted uranium weapons, uranium weapons. Outlaw the use of uranium weapons. That's what must happen. It must happen at the highest level.
You need to hear the truth, and you're not going to hear it from congressmen, senators, your president, or your presidential candidates. You need to listen to your troops that live through the battle. I experience it myself. I've gone through trying to get the diagnostic testing for myself, getting it from outside. Only a handful of us have been able to do that through benefactors, to get some real testing done, real diagnostic work, to show the effect on our own body. And then we turn around and try to fight to get those same tests done for others. 16 years, no treatment.
Well, I think the best approach to solving this problem now is to acknowledge that the problem exists, to stop saying that this is all a psychological problem, like post-traumatic stress disorder, and to realize that many, if not the overwhelming majority of these veterans that are suffering with real medical reasons for their ailments, and to set up some kind of a systematic way to examine these veterans to determine what their exposures were, what types of toxic materials are still present in their bodies, whether these be biological, radiological, or chemical, and treat them.
They have no fight left in them. It's now time that we take that fight and that we go forward, unfortunately, in the memory of a lot of those troops.
So now you ask, what can we do? Well, we can become proactive. The first step in fighting these wrongs is awareness. Now the job, I believe, is up to all of us to make others aware. We should immediately stop denying that Gulf War syndrome is merely post-traumatic stress disorder. every single person who has any symptoms should be helped at no charge, so it is no longer financially burdening to them. Every Iraqi child who's been adversely affected by depleted uranium should be treated as assertively and positively as possible. Network, contact government officials, the media, state representatives, become a voice for the voiceless. We should also ask for open hearings, a truth committee where individuals who participated in the cover-up are allowed to come forward, acknowledge their culpability, tell the truth, and be given immunity, and let the public know what exactly happened, who was responsible. It's time to stop this massive cover-up. In order for this to happen, we must all become involved. No more stacked hearings. Let real people come forward and tell the truth. Only then can we have served our troops as they have so bravely served us.